So today we're going to get Diego and Joanne from Science to come up and have a look at the dyes in the embroidery. It'd be really useful to find out what kind of dye stuffs were used to colour the embroidery threads. Also, it might help us understand if the colours have changed, because we do think there are quite a few areas where we've had a lot of fading going on, and by doing some dye analysis we might actually find that maybe some of the beigey browns were actually maybe pinky red colours. The method which they're going to use to identify the dyes is a destructive technique and does involve taking small samples. It needs about 1/2 centimetre length of each fibre. And so because it is destructive, we have thought very carefully about whether this is appropriate and have discussed it with the curator. But on balance, I think that what we will learn about the embroidery outweighs the sacrifice of a small sample.
Hello everybody, my name is Diego Tamburini and I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the Scientific Research Department of the British Museum. My main task is to analyze organic colorants in archaeological textiles. Today, all the dyes that we have on our clothes or that are used to dye textiles are synthetic. Whereas in antiquity people were using natural substances to create colorants to dye their clothes and create artistic objects. This is just a small part of the British Museum reference collection. Every time we look at something that comes from a specific geographical area, we need to have the proper reference collection. And this is how the collection of the British Museum was built. We worked on different objects from different geographical areas from all over the world, and during the years people actually went there and acquired reference materials to be able to compare their results to this. Today I'm gonna work on some samples taken from a famous Chinese textile referred to as the Vulture Peak. I was with Monique and Hannah and we were sampling the textiles, and what we did was taking small amounts of fibers and we put them between two glass slides and labeled them. We did this because we wanted to be able to look at the fibers under the microscope with high magnification in order to understand if the threads were dyed one by one or if they were dyed all together, if mixtures of colorant were used. So the microscopic observation already gives important information about the dyeing technology. The next step is when we separate some of these fibers, we put them in these vials and we perform the extraction of the dyes from the fibers. What I'm about to do is to add 200 microliters of this mixture of solvents, and we are adding a little bit of oxalic acid, which is the agent that allows us to break the bond between the dye molecules and the fibers. Okay, so what I just did was to put the samples in that heating block. They are going to stay there at 80 degrees for 15 minutes because the heating is going to help the extraction reaction. Okay, so after 15 minutes we have to remove them, and the next step is to dry them under nitrogen because I want to get rid of the acid, I want to get rid of the acetone, I don't want them to be in my final solution. So now I turn the nitrogen on, and this is gonna take, let's say, 1 hour before all the solvents evaporate. Okay, so now we are at the end of the extraction procedure, our samples are ready. Our dye molecules are dispersed in this solution, and the solution is okay to be analyzed using high pressure liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. The dye molecules are separated inside the machine, and the result is a graph which is called chromatogram, which shows different peaks at different times. And each peak corresponds to a molecule. So what I will do next will be to compare the peak I find in my samples with the peak I have from my reference database. And by doing that, I will be able to say, okay, this red is made up of madder rather than cochineal, or this yellow is made up of the extract from this plant rather than this other plant. So these are all the information that I can get from these results. So everything you've seen so far is not actually the real time-consuming part. The time-consuming part is the interpretation of the results, and from that try to reconstruct the natural origin of the dyes that were used on the Vulture Peak. We are talking about China and 8th century, so they might have used some very local and particular plant which I might miss in my collection, and I'm going to be able to reconstruct the original colors of the textile, which actually shows a lot of fading. So everything that now we see orangey, yellowish, might have been red, for example, and I can say that from this kind of analysis. And there is a little stripe of a purple dye. Purple dyes are very delicate and precious. We are talking about a very expensive colorant. It derives from some little shells, and each shell produces a little bit of purple. So if that purple is there, we are talking about what is called true purple, and in that case it might be a very nice discovery. So let's see.